Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining Jeff and I today. We're going to talk about a few questions that have come in from, I guess, countrywide.
Yes.
So, before we get into it, Jeff, did you watch the Super Bowl?
Oh, yes, I did. Wasn't it
Yeah,
was not it was what quite a suspenseful game, wasn't
yeah. I'm kind of
it?
glad that the Chiefs actually ended up getting as many points as they did. For a while there, it sat at 0-17 for over half the game, and I'm like, come on, let's
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
it's the only football game I watch each year, so I'm not a fan, but I did tune in, and hopefully next year's a little more exciting.
Yeah.
I found the Grey Cup more exciting this year than I did the Super Bowl.
Okay. Mm. Well, I enjoyed it.
Okay,
I had some nachos and chili and I was a happy girl.
good. Okay.
Okay, so let's get going with the questions. The first one came in from Ontario. Do your investments ever include gold and silver?
Yes, they do. We wrote a blog last January and it was entitled Gold Stocks Will Shine Later This Year. Gold's a very precarious commodity, tends to move in different directions at different times for different reasons. And
Right.
so it's hard
Pretty
to,
unpredictable.
yeah, it's incredibly unpredictable.
Hmm.
But we were most confident in data that suggested gold bullion rallies most consistently after the central banks begin cutting rates.
Hmm.
And so we knew rate cuts would take place later in 2024. So this time last year, we bought a gold royalty company and we said, we'll hold it until a few months after that first rate cut. And so that's what we did. The Fed cut rates in September. We held it till we held this gold royalty till up a week or two ago and just
Right.
recently sold it. So we're out of that one. Right now, the gold exposure we have is a small cap company. It's a single asset mine in the Yukon, which is a safe jurisdiction, though Canada maybe isn't looking like one at the moment, but nevertheless, they have gold, copper, some silver, and its market capitalization is about $300 million. That's the shares they have floating in the market multiplied by the share price, 315 million. But once the mine is developed, its net asset value, which is simply future cash flows discounted to today, is
Hmm.
about $4.5 billion.
Right.
We don't think its existing team will be the ones who put this mine into production. It's going to be for a larger company to
Right.
get going. It
And
has
some of those.
two large shareholders. Rio Tinto owns about 9% of the stock. Mitsubishi Materials owns about 4%. And we think they might collaborate to buy the whole company at some point.
Hmm.
They won't
Hmm.
pay 4.4 billion. Okay, they'll pay a lot
Yeah.
less than that, but they'll pay a lot more than 315 million. So
Hmm.
that's our gold exposure at the moment. So
Yeah. And we
that's
also did a couple webcasts in the last like a year ago
oh
on gold
yeah,
stock.
yeah,
And we've just recently done one on, we did one on Western Copper as well. We've
yeah.
touched on that multiple times. So it's something that you can look back at if
Mhm.
you're interested and view through our blogs and take a look at that,
Yeah, everything's archived.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next question's from Kaladin. Is it hard to move my money from a employer-sponsored RSP over to you?
Well, I think if you're currently working for the company, it is not advised. I would say that if you've got contributions you're making and they're making, no, you stay put until retirement or you've changed your employer. And then at that point, it's a very simple process. All we need is a copy of your statement. We do a quick transfer for you on your behalf. It's all digitally completed, and that's it. It gets
Yeah,
processed.
yeah. And the money usually gets moved in a week or two.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, that was easy. All right, next one. Question from Hamilton. What do you think of the loonie?
Okay, we've got a lot of questions about this recently. When
Hmm.
we wrote a blog about this also a couple of weeks ago. I
Right.
thought I would just refresh our views because a lot of things have happened since then. So I stand by what we said in that we're close to a bottom on the loonie at say 68, 69 cents. And the reason we said that was because number one, we didn't think the 25% tariffs would come into effect last Monday, and they didn't.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
second, we think there will be a change in investor sentiment towards Canada when we have a new federal government in May, will
Hmm.
be more business friendly. I think this is the Conservatives' election to lose, but if it happens, I think the Liberal Party moves substantially closer to the center, similar to how Chrétien
Hmm.
and Martin did in the 1990s. So that was the basis for our blog. Our former Bank of Canada governor, Stephen Pawlitz, gave a speech followed by a question and answer session at the Canadian Club last week. And he was giving his outlook on what he thinks could happen to the loonie. And he said it could depreciate substantially if there are tariffs. He mentioned that when he became Bank of Canada's governor, he saw the loonie drop by 20 percentage points. And you left the speech thinking he was suggesting there would be another 20% decline if there were tariffs. However, he didn't actually say that. And even if he did, I would disagree
Hmm.
for the simple reason that when the loonie dropped 20% in 2015 onwards, that was because the US became much more self-sufficient on oil or on their energy supply than they were before. They came up with new extraction techniques to get oil out of the ground. Before that happened, Canada's currency was very much like a petro currency. Every time oil went up 5%, you'd see the loonie appreciate, and vice versa. Now there's almost no correlation between oil prices and the loonie. So I don't think there would be that drastic a drop in the loonie if there were tariffs. But let's say there were. If 25% tariffs were imposed on Canada, that would take about 5% out of our gross domestic product. I think what would happen then is you would see a drop in the loonie, a big one, but there would
Hmm.
be an emergency response from the premier,
Hmm.
and that would be to remove interprovincial trade barriers. Pollitt also mentioned in his speech that if we were to get rid of barriers between provinces, that would add between 4 to 7% to our gross domestic product. So it would completely offset the effect of tariffs if
Right.
we were to
Hmm.
trade west and not just north south. And the quote I took away from the speech was, "It's free money and no one wants to pick it up." So I mean, it's a political issue. You have supply chain management with Quebec, trucking, moving alcohol across provincial borders. Those are
Right.
things we could get rid of. Supply chain management would be very, very difficult. But
Yeah.
if an emergency, uh,
Hmm.
similar to the pandemic or you name it, we could see action.
Yeah.
So so I still think 68, 69 cents is close to the bottom. Um, for those reasons, I think you get a change of government in the spring that improves confidence. And if there are
Hmm.
tariffs, we could remove interprovincial trade barriers as a response, an emergency
Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay.
Hey, question from Etobicoke. Can you make sure that I never own a particular stock because my husband works for the company?
Absolutely. We work with every client and discuss if there's any specific company or industry that they do not want to own, and we have a restriction list. And you and I abide by that every time we place trades. We have to review the list before we buy any block trades. So the answer is yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, here's a question from someone in Alberta. She is moving to Quebec. does that mean we can no longer work together?
No, there's through the regulator, there's a mobility exemption rule that we are actually allowed to work with people that move out of the province. Let's say they're registered with us here and they move to a province that we're not registered. We're allowed to, there's an exemption through the regulator that we're allowed to work with up to 5 people.
Yeah.
So that doesn't pose a problem.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that or
No, I'm just
think we're
looking at
good?
my notes here at Quebec.
Yeah.
That's a blog on its own. Let's
I
save
mean,
that.
there's a process of notification for us to do administration, but no, that's pretty
Yeah,
much sums it up.
the only one it's just because it's Quebec. We have to. I think we have till the summer to cross the i's and dot the t's. But they have some language.
Oh,
Talk about
okay.
interprovincial barriers. I mean,
Right,
that's a whole nother topic. Let's not even get into that. But
right,
we can continue working with people
right.
that move from a province where we are registered to another province where we are not.
Yeah,
And it's no problem. Oh, but I should say, even if that mobility exemption didn't exist, we would just get registered. It's no problem.
yeah,
I mean,
that is a possibility.
instead of just being registered to do business in Canada, it's by province. So you have 13. I mean, if you include the territories, you got to get registered in 13 jurisdictions. And it's yeah, that's anyways.
Yeah, it's not an
Not
issue.
easy doing business in Canada, that is for sure.
Yeah.
So, anyways, on that happy note, why don't we conclude there?
Okay. Talk
Okay,
to you soon. Thanks,
thanks.
Jeff.